want to discuss today.
Yeah, you wrote very late last night, Johan.
What?
You wrote it very late last night, Johan.
Yeah. Well,
some kind of a...
Well, I was thinking about it, then I decided I'm going to post it, so I'll remember. If I don't think of it, people will remind me, hey, you got to talk about this thing. I just want to establish where in the mimer we will start when if and when we finish this Hagdama. And that is in the mamash smack in the middle of Kuf Vov. The line begins with the Shateva Shehu inyan mocha shevimidas. Shehu inyan shein ha vov AYIN. In the beginning of the line.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah. All right. So I mentioned in that little blurb that I was talking to Shlomo Yenison yesterday about Chochmah. And as we described Chochmah, that Chochmah was just like inside, for example. There is the reality that comes as a result of the fact that I see it. And there is no challenge to that. You go straight to the truth itself. There is not a process, an intellectual process that brings you to accept it and to relate to it, because this is the divine truth. So it sounded very similar to Dr. Shlomo Yeshin points out, it sounded very similar to what we said about Bruim Shebiyam. Way back when we spoke about the difference between Bruim Shebiyam and Bruim Shebiyabosha. Bruim Shebiyam are totally submerged in their source of life source. Bruim, creatures. Creatures in the sea creatures are submerged in their source. Bruim Shebayabosha, they stand on their own. They recognize their creator, but that's a cognizance by their intelligence. So on the one hand, it would seem that Bruim Shebiyam, that sea creatures, are superior to Bruim Shebiyabosha because they are submerged in the truth of their source. But really, there is a primary supremacy in Bruim Shebiyabosha on the dry land creatures, not a primary, a most important aspect, because they actually come to serve their creator by virtue of their own conviction, of their own cognizance. Whereas the Bruim Shebiyam don't have their own contribution at all. They are simply submerged therein. So therefore, based on this, there is a reflection, and when we talk about Chochmah, and we say Chochmah relates to that which it recognizes without challenge, without a process of conviction. It recognizes immediately the divine truth in it. This sounds very close to the Bruim Shebiyam attitude, state. So I want to explain the phenomenal difference. As a matter of fact,
I'm sorry, I lost you. The Bruim Shebiyam and Bruim Shebiyabosha, how does it relate to Chochmah?
No. We said that there is the Koyach HaChochmah.
Yeah.
And they explained Chochmah, that Chochmah immediately recognizes the truth, and it doesn't need to be convinced of it.
Okay, so that would be like Shebiyam.
So it sounds awfully like that Bruim Shebiyam. But we are constantly pointing out, no, Brum Shabiyabosha is a superior model of avoid, not the Brum Shabiyam. But this sounds more, that's what he pointed out, that sounds like Brum Shabiyam. So I want to explain the phenomenal difference between the way Chochmah takes it and the way the Brum Shabiyam experience it. As a matter of fact, I once pointed out a very interesting phenomenon, that this koyach, this quality of being able to relate to the truth without challenge, because you immediately recognize it, is called chokhmah. The word chokhmah means wisdom. Where is the wisdom in this? There's no process. Wisdom pertains when you make a choice or something. But there's no process at all. And this is the phenomenal difference between the way it is Brum Shabiyam and Brum Shabiyabosha. Brum Shabiyabosha, even when we have the muscle of sight, right? We immediately recognize, we see what we see. But we see what we see, and there is a choice element. We relate to it intentionally. It's not like we be submerged in it. The choice element still remains. So that you have to distinguish, there are two steps, there are two processes, two elements in the relationship. The truth of that to which you're relating, and the method by which you recognize this truth. The truth to which you're relating, this is true in Chokhmah. You relate directly to the truth itself. And in that respect, this is like Brum Shabiyam. However, the method by which you recognize that this is the truth, and the method by which you commit yourself to it, is a completely different method. Brum Shabiyabosha, you recognize the truth, and you commit. There's a step of commitment. This is why it's called Chokhmah. Chokhmah means it's a wise choice. It's not something superimposed upon you. It is one of the faculties of the moichin. It's an intelligent choice. And it is so intelligent, you see the truth of it without the need to elaborate and to debate it, because you see right away. But what do you see? You see its truth. And you make the choice because you see it, because you recognize it as the truth. This is why this is a phenomenal difference. So in terms of what you're connecting is similar, but how you connect to it is very different.
You said Chokhmah and Moichin in the same sentence. What's the differentiation in this particular context between Chokhmah and Moichin?
Chokhmah and Moichin should say the same thing. Moichin, Chokhmah is the super level of Moichin.
Okay.
The beginning of Moichin is Chokhmah. There's nobody online there at all.
Ellie's there.
Huh?
Ellie's there.
Volpe didn't come on today.
After that moment of commitment, so seemingly then it's a unit. seems like then there's a unity between subject and object. Would that be already, or still there remains?
It's still a personal commitment.
It's an ongoing commitment. That always remains that sort of distance that gets bridged.
Right.
Wonderful day and easy fast.
You too.
So that sort of implies that the Brum Yabasha, the man, has a sort of a yeshus that is, he's continuously giving up and retaining.
His battle is not necessarily against his yeshus. His battle is more of keeping this in a conscious awareness. There's a passage that says, "Sheviti Hashem negdi summit." It's a passage in Tehillim. Sheviti Hashem, I place Hashem negdi in front of me, tamid. Why do you have to put up Hashem is negdi all the time? But you have to make yourself aware of it, even though it's there all the time.
Right. That seems to make the point stronger, namely that the man has his sort of own involvement, his own self-focus that he continuously has to put to the side to focus on the oneness.
That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
It is not what is he's struggling, yes, is not against himself, that he would like to be elsewhere and he is there. It is that without being rather, he is outside. Like I said, the difference between observing through a window or being inside.
So by virtue of being who he is, he's kind of placed outside, but he must always remember,
and he's always aware, and he keeps his eyes open and he sees what he sees.
Wait, so the sheviti is to continuously be inside?
No, continuously be aware, not being outside. The negdi, I put it in, the negdi means in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. That doesn't sound much like chokhmah, that sounds like the observer.
No, that's chokhmah. Chokhmah is an observer.
It is. I thought chokhmah, we focus more on chokhmah being the direct connection, the clear channel.
It's a clear channel because he recognizes his truth right away without challenge, but he's seeing it.
But
it's
again,
like insight.
Yeah, but again, it's not the outside observer status. It's a union here.
No, it is an outside observer, but not an observer who tends to be outside. I'm saying when you sight recognizes what you see as a truth, even though you were separate for it. I always point out the difference. The halacha says a witness is only one who observed the actual occurrence. If he did not observe the actual occurrence, but he has circumstantial evidence, unrefutable, unchallengeable evidence, what's the difference? He still knows exactly the truth. Because when you observe, you don't know the truth, you know it. Evidence is evidence. It goes through your own intellectual process. You're convinced of it. Observation is not a conviction. Observation does not have the process of being convinced. When you wake up in the morning and it's daytime, are you convincing yourself that it's daytime? Right? This is why this is called Avodas Hashem. We we're actually aware of what we're doing, and we're doing it with a commitment. This is why one of the primary ways of serve Hashem is by thanking Him for all the things that occur, all the things that come our way. The thanking Him is the recognition that this came to me through His goodness and through His interference. Okay, let's go inside a little bit.
What line?
Shehu inyan meichesh v'midah. That's what you said at the start. He said in the previous line that the Hergesh of Kibbutz Elikim Vitev, this is what's called the Bechein. The Bechein means the resultant effect of this seichel. You reflect on the godly presence, and then you come bechein. Therefore, I should have this commitment. So the connection to Elokus is a bechein element rather than a submerge. Shehu inyan meichen shebemidas, which is the meichen aspect within midas itself. Midas is what one experiences personally, and this is the meichen in midas, is directing what the truth of that experience is. Where does he get it from? Okay, so this bechein comes up when the hasoga, when the comprehension is with levushi hasoga, with the process that goes through a worldly process. Mashe'ein kain. Whereas, in contrast, kishe hasoga yi b'pchinas hafshota, when the comprehension is in a hafshota, which is devoid milvushi hasoga, free of the gammas of comprehension. Kiyim, rather instead, how is the hasoga? Be'etzem ho'inyan ho'leki. He has a comprehension, he focuses in the essence of the inyan, in the eleki element, rather than how it reflects itself on the world arena. Alakus per se. And he focuses in, he has hasoga alakus per se. What this kind of thing is this alakus? Harei hu b'vchinas kiruv yesem. Then he is in a much greater closeness el ho'etzem de alakus, to the essence of alakus. He's in a much greater closeness to the essence of alakus. Namely, shelamaylo mibchinas hislapshus be'elamas u'brui. That alakus which is above of being connected and mislabish, being effective in oilamas and in brui, in worlds and creation and the creation. So therefore, this is a big difference. When the hasoga is in Bilvushi hasoga, how it is reflective in the world, then he doesn't have the hasoga in Etzem Elokus. It's an Elokus as it is close to the world. Where it is behafshot Bilvushi hasoga, when he goes to Elokus itself, and it does not prepare any kind of means by which he becomes aware of Elokus, but just directly higher than a world. Then he actually recognizes he has Hasoga is in Etzem Elokus, in the essence of Elokus itself, the truth of Elokus itself, not its effect. Okay. So the Rebbe is describing the result and the effect of this type of Hasoga. When the Hasoga is we have Shota, devoid of Levushim, he contemplates of Levush directly. So number one, he has the Etzem Levush. Not the Levush that is reflected in the world, but the Levush, the Etzem. That's number one. And then the other thing, the Gaman also, that thereby, what happened?
I forgot my tefillin here, so I'm going to laugh about you guys.
Okay. And thereby, he steps out from the reality of his own gashmius, of his own worldliness. Because he is focused on the Elokus truth itself. This draws him out from his own Hashem, from his own loneliness. Because he is close to the Etzem Elokus. And when he comes out from his own loneliness, means Shebe'etzem Mahusay. His whole essence, his own personal being, who b'chinas hafshota, his own personal, he changes his whole mitzias, his worldly peace, he changes, mitzias changes. His very reality becomes b'chinas hafshota, because hafshota moves it means devoid and unrelated to world. His own being becomes aliyah in a state of arise up and connection, greater connection in the essence of Elokus. In other words, he is in the world and is a worldly creature, but he's actually given up, so to speak, on the worldly aspect. It is the Eliki that he relates to, not the worldly. This one, Havshotim Lavushi. A few more words. Ve'alkein, and thereby, therefore. Okay.
Line starts with?
The line starts with one Havshota.
Okay.
At the end. Ve'alkein, and therefore, Einay Shayach Adayin Lemidus. At that point, he has no shachas to Midas yet. Because he is mufshad, he is not connected to worldliness. He is focused on the Elokus only. Elokus is the only reality in his mind, in his awareness. He's not shayach to Midas. V'zehu V'zehu b'chines hamoichin atzmon shelamayla mehamidus. This is the bechina of the essence of moichin themselves, shelamayla mehamidus, that are above midas. It is possible, so to speak, to reach and to relate to that when his hasoga, when his comprehension of Elokus is hafshot, is devoid of any garments, but he comprehends, he recognizes the truth of Elokus directly, so he becomes connected to Elokus, and therefore his hasoga is in meichin, is shalamayim me'amidus. I'm sure that there is some kind of misprint over here. Ulamaylo yoiser, and it is much higher than bechinas hameichin asher yochin al amidus. So when it is behafshota, it is meichin per se. Then there is the meichin as they are effective in midos. How that translates in world. This is hasaga b'lakus. This is the comprehension of b'lakus. Sheba b'bchinas islapshus ba'ilums. This is the lakus that ultimately comes down to be mislabish to relate to world.
The one that's higher than the midos, or the one that's
No, the one
that's in the
shaykh
midos. The shaykh tamid, yeah. Which yeah.
This is making a shaykh slapshus lakus. The b'derech klal. בדרך כלל, הרי זה האור לבד. Okay, this is another subtlety. A lakus per se is above world. A lakus is the first reality of truth. Like the Rambam says, the first thing is to know that there is a first being. It has nothing to do with world at all. It precedes world and it is not definable by world. So then when we come down and we identify in the lakus that which is slapshus and eilums, that which does reflect, it is reflected in world and is effective on world. Like we discussed in these last few days, the slapshus and eilums. So then this is the derech klal. In general, that pertains to the how, not the etzem of lakus, but this is only ha'ora levad. This is not the essence of lakus, this is only the ha'ora levad. What is a ha'ora versus the etzem? So we discussed this. That's a very, very quick. We gave this mashal many times. If you are in somebody's home and the owner of the home, the host, is present right there with you, and we explained many times that the host, the person, since that the person owns the home, his presence is everywhere in the home, whether you see him or you don't see him. It's his home, regardless. To the extent that he will not be able to tolerate anybody, any place in this home, even if it doesn't interfere with his whereabouts. This is what's called the ha'ora of his essence, the ha'ora of the reality of his presence. The out of his presence is in his presence. Clearly, that's where he is. He can't interfere. But even when he is not there, like we said, in the attic of his home, which he never visits, but there is the ha'ora, there is the reflection of the truth that this home is owned by a person. This is called the ha'ora. So the lakus that mislabshes in the world, this is only a ha'ora of a lakus. This is only a ha'ora, an allusion to the inyan that there is a lakus, a reality. Otherwise there couldn't be in any world. So this is only a ha'ora, so to speak, of the lakus. This is the moichin that RASHAB to midas, and this is the hasogan elokus as mislabshes and elemis, and this is b'derech klal. It says, generally speaking, this is only ha'ora. Okay, this is where we're going to interrupt, and I guess this is going to be the next session is going to be after Adliyada.
Friday.
Friday. What Adliyada?